Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about using Excel Online for doing basic simple linear regression. This is supplemental material for intro stats. Like there's a textbook and other stuff besides this, but this is specifically like how to actually use Excel to implement a simple linear regression. This assignment uses the cloud-based online Excel. We're not on the desktop version. For BHCC students, this assignment's on Moodle. You should download it and get it from there. If anybody on YouTube wants this assignment, there is a link below where you can obtain it. The purpose of this assignment is to make simple linear regression models. Okay. As a prerequisite, you should have done assignment 5 and you should know how to look at a scatter plot and correlation. And you should first ascertain that there is a linear pattern because we are doing linear regression. And you want to actually make sure that your data fits the pattern before you actually try to do regression analysis. Okay. There's two ways to do the regression in Excel online. There is not the access to like the toolkit and like the add-on features that the full desktop version of Excel has. But in the online version, you can do trend lines with equations on the scatter plot, and you can also use a function called lin_s, which will give you the parameters for the regression line. Okay. The first method is to use a scatter plot and then a trend line. The first thing to do is to prepare the data. Again, we need to have data that are bivariate. We need to have two variables. Now, in a regression, unlike a correlation, you must define what the independent and dependent variables are. The dependent variable is what you're predicting. That's your y variable, and the independent variable is your x variable. So the y variable depends on the x because the equation is going to be written in terms of y equals some function of x. Okay. It depends on the data which one you want to use. In some cases, like if you're doing height and weight, you could predict weight from height or height from weight. Other cases, like typically if your independent variable is time, you're basically never predicting time. So you're predicting something over time, like sales over time, and sales would be your dependent variable. So be careful about your context and make sure that you know like what your independent and dependent variables are going to be. Okay. The first method is to make a scatter plot and then put a trend line on it. Now, when you're just making a scatter plot to just look at the data, it doesn't matter who's X and Y, but if you're doing it for a regression, you want to make sure that your Y is your dependent variable and your X is your independent variable. And so you're going to go insert and scatter. And then once you create your scatter plot, now the scatter plot was the previous assignment covered how to make scatter plots. So when you have your scatter plot made, you can actually just click on it and do this add trend line. And then I'm going to show you in Excel how to use little hidden features and actually get the equation of that line from the correlation plot, from the scatter plot rather. And then you can actually put the equation on there. Okay. And so let's go ahead and go into Excel and look at how to do this. Okay. So I'm in Excel, and this is a pretty short assignment. It has a scatterplot method blue tab, a lin_s method blue tab, and then for you, I have two problems where you're going to actually do it both ways. Okay. So I'm going to do the blue tabs, the scatterplot method first. I'm actually going to use the same data for both just to like compare them. This is data on like, I think it's bears or something like that, some kind of animals, and length and width of length and weight rather of the animal. So we have data. It has age too, but we don't really want to use age in our model. So we're going to highlight the data, just the data. You don't want to have your blankies in there. And I actually want my names too. And then we're going to go to insert, and then we're going to put a scatter plot in. Okay. Now, you want to make sure that what you're going to predict is the y-axis, so that's weight and then length. And then let's go ahead and label this. With a better title. You don't really need the legend. And I'm not going to bother titling the axes, but you should do that. And then what we're going to do, because we're actually concerned with the trend line now. So then what we want to do is we want to get a trend line on this. And it's not super intuitive, but you want to like click on this. You want to actually click on like the data. You want to click in like the right place. Here. So I actually selected the data, which was a little tricky, and then I want to do add trend line. And that's the trend line, which I don't particularly, I think I accidentally moved the axes when I played around with it. Let's actually start over. I'm leaving this in because it's good for you to see my goofs. Okay, so let's start with this. Select the data. Go to Insert, Scatterplot. If you right click on this, this might, see, I didn't select all of the data when I did that. That's why I got kind of a funny looking trend line. Okay. It's really not intuitive how to get this set up correctly. Okay. Series weight. Okay, it's under here, so it's under chart. I right clicked on the chart under chart format. Way down here is this trend line and hit go. And then it's gonna do a linear trend line. Oh, this is actually doing this intentionally because it's setting the intercept, which I don't want to do. And then I also want the equation and values. Now, I don't know what this trendline 1, 2 thing is doing. I didn't even notice this when I did this earlier. Okay. I only need the first one. That's actually correct. This is actually, it gave us a trend line and it gave us the equation of the trend line. That is actually the correct equation. So I'm going to do weight by length. Okay. And then I'm going to get rid of this legend because I just kind of don't like it. I should also label my axes, but I'm not going to. Now this, the way that it's automating this, I thought I was goofing something up, but I wasn't, because it's actually extending the line into the negative territory. So it actually moved the axes like this and put the negatives in there. You can adjust that, but I'm just going to leave it. So this is the method of making a simple linear regression line. Now this is way down here. I want to actually move this up. Please don't put your graphs like way off the chart, way off the visible area. Okay. And so that would be, we have, this is literally the best fit linear regression line, and it's fitting it in, and the equation is y equals 9 point, I can barely read that, so I'm going to make it bigger if I can. Let's make this bigger. And then we can also do, now I like to do my regressions and actually put like the variable names in there. So rather than y, I would actually put weight in. But I don't necessarily know how to do that correctly, so I'm not gonna get too weird. I would also like maybe put like a background on the equation to make it like a little bit more like stand out. But that is the method of getting a trend. The trend line is actually in here. You can barely see. No, I would actually put it a little bigger. The trend line is really, really faint. And it's really hard to click on because it's like tiny, like it's just hard to click on the line itself. It's in there, but I would make it a little bigger. So that's the trend line approach to making a regression by just using the scatter plot. I like this. I don't love it. I mean, for intrastats and like super basic needs, this is okay. I would really prefer that like you actually did like a mathematical regression and looked at the significance of things, but at this level of class, we don't know that yet. So that's one way to do a regression in Excel. The second method is a little more sophisticated, and I'm not so sure that I really recommend this for intro students. This is this function called linest. I think at the intro sort of basic level, the method I just showed is a little bit more intuitive. This uses a function. So it's the same data setup as method one, except then you want to use this function linest, which you have to be super clear about how you enter your variables, y and then x. And then there's also these optional parameters um, for it will return additional statistics in a slope and intercept. It defaults to not giving the optional parameters, so we're just going to do linest and then the y values and then the x values. Um, you select the data, you use the function, you push enter, and it gives you the values. Okay. Um, linest is really kind of more detailed. I mean, the online version's limited here. I like the data analytics toolkit, which gives like a full regression and like significance of the parameters and stuff. You don't get that in this online version. This is where sort of like the online Excel kind of like is limited and you can only really do like basic stats. Which is fine for this level course. For this class, it's fine. It's not fine for like the more advanced analytical courses. Okay, so let's go into Excel and let's look at how to do this linest regression model. Okay, so I'm back in Excel and I'm actually again going to copy the prior chart because I'm going to use the same data and we want to have this for reference. Um, you don't always have to do things two ways, but it's good to compare the ways. Now, I still really want a better line. I mean, you can see the line, but it's really just not like thick enough. There it is. It's selected. Um, I don't know if that's going to do me any good, but I don't see how to make that like thicker. Right click on it, format. Maybe I'll make it red. Yeah, okay, that helps a little. Okay, so that's the model done the other method, and I'm going to show you how to do it with this linest method. So I'm going to go down to like just a random, still within the visual range. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to do equals linest. This is the function we're going to use. And then I'm going to do weight. Now I don't want to select the weight, like I don't want to take the variable name. I just want the data because it's going to like not like that. At least it shouldn't. And then that, and then height. So we want to do y and then x. Be careful about that. That's one thing I don't like about this. For like a new student, it's not super intuitive. Like you have to make sure that you put your y and then your x in the right place. Um, and that's all we have to do, and then we just click enter. Oops. Oh, I did lines and not linest. Okay. I somehow got rid of the T. Okay. But what I also don't like about this is that it just like spews out two numbers and it's not super intuitive what these numbers are. So like this, it's obvious like what the slope and intercept are because you all know the equation of a line. Whereas the linest, you just kind of like get these numbers and like if you don't have like something to refer to, it's hard to tell like what that is. So this is the slope and this is the intercept. Um, I don't love the linest method, but I want to show it to you because it's good. Like it's good to be able to do that. Um, and so that you would have to write your own equation from this, whereas here it just gives it to you. I would also write this equation in terms of like weight equals 9.8, oops, 9.8 times length, 394. Because I like to write my basic regressions like in terms of the context of the model. Okay. And so those are the two ways to do regression in the Excel online. And then for you, there's two assignments. Now you're going to do both of these both ways. So you're going to put like your scatter plot and then your trend line. And then I do also want to see that you ran the linest function just to make sure that you did it right. Okay. Okay. Thanks.